Today's sponsor is Loot Crate. For less than $20 a month, Loot Crate gives the geek in you a special treat every month. Loot Crate is a subscription box service with more than $40 worth of geek, gamer, and pop culture gear, collectibles, apparel, comics, etc. delivered to your mailbox every month. This month, they're bringing you a fight for the ages. Suit up, choose your allies, and enter the arena for combat. They're ready to stand their ground this month with exclusive items from Blizzard, Fallout 4, Capcom, sponsor-worthy loot from the Hunger Games, as well as a few more items that will help their winners emerge victorious. You have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when the cutoff happens, that's it, Jack. It's over. So go to lootcrate.com/kindafunny and enter the code kindafunny to save $3 on your new subscription today. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the GameOverGreggy show. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
How we doing, Greg?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well.
Do you ever move this around like it's a Ouija board thing?
I do a lot, actually.
No, you don't.
I do a lot of things with these mics.
You've never done this before. You've never done it like this before.
I move it around like this.
That's fine.
I'm sorry. No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Thank
I don't
you.
move it around like it's a Ouija board.
Ouija?
I move it around like it's an air hockey stick. You ever
Oh,
do that?
sure. Yeah. I
Sometimes.
got that. That makes sense.
And I've said it before, but I'll say it again. These remind me of Rite Aid ice creams. You know, they come out with the sort of square-ish, sort of cylindrical.
No, I don't know Rite Aid
scoop.
ice cream.
Oh man, it's the business. The bee's knees. It used to be called Thrifties.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. They have chocolate malted crunch, which is.
Do they have
delicioso.
Whoppers as toppers? Could I put some Whoppers on my ice cream?
I think you'd like
Whoppers as toppers.
You can do whatever you want. They sell it all
Midwest is a weird place.
What?
CVS.
You never get the. I don't. We talked about this last week. Pure One, Tim Gettys. How great Whoppers are.
Yeah.
So don't talk to me like you've never had ice cream with Whoppers on it. All right.
I haven't.
You've never had a DQ Blizzard with some Whoppers in there?
DQ's not a thing around here. In the Bay
Same thing
Area.
in SoCal. I love DQ. They got the peanut butter parfait.
We got we have one knockoff ass DQ in a mall. Those don't count.
No, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Pride of Long Island. Colin Moriarty.
It's good to be here with you.
Are DQs a thing on the East Coast?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just making sure. Can never be. You never be sure where this is. What's Rite Aid's penetration on the market? Where are they everywhere? Are they out here only?
They're out here. I don't know.
I've never
They're out
actually.
here. And it did used to be a Thrifties.
Yeah, it used to be Thrifties. Thrifties got bought out by Rite Aid. Now, I don't know where you all come down on the Rite Aid versus CVS versus Walgreens.
See that and that. Okay, so I'm in the right vein there. Rite Aid. You asked me before this podcast, what's Rite Aid do? I would have said they're like a Walgreens.
Yeah, they are.
But they serve ice cream in squares.
They
as well?
have, yeah, it's weird. They have a little ice cream stand. The scooper is like the shape of this cup, a little bit smaller. So the scoop of ice cream comes out looking like the tip of this mic.
Okay.
So when you get a cone, they serve like the shitty cones, the ones that aren't sugar, the ones that like basically taste like
Cardboard.
Yeah, like the ones at Sizzler.
Yeah.
Sizzler serves ice cream cones?
Yeah, Sizzler has when you get the unlimited things, the unlimited salad bar or whatever,
Sure.
they have the unlimited
Soft serve ice cream.
Soft serve, yeah, and it gives you the little
wafer cones.
fucking
I hate those
cardboard
cones.
things.
I hate those things.
I don't mind them.
I mean,
There's nothing more satisfying though than pulling the thing and just seeing how far up you can go. Yeah.
Yeah, but you
And
know
it's
that's gonna
gonna-
just
and then
eventually
you know it's
leaning
gonna fall
tower pizza
over.
onto your arm.
And that's why you grab the bowl,
Oh.
you hold it next to it,
Holy
and you do the walk back, trying
that's-
to make sure it doesn't fall. Then as soon as you get down to your place, you put it down, you just dunk that shit. You always put one M&M on the bottom of the cone. It's a little gift.
These are Sizzler facts.
Crap, dude.
Never been inside a Sizzler.
You're not missing much.
Thought it was more like a Red Lobster. But it's more like a Golden Corral? Where am I on the scale here?
No. So here's the thing. People act like Sizzler has this fucking buffet, this big unlimited salad bar. That's all it is. It's a salad bar.
Oh, it's like a Ruby Tuesday.
I don't know.
Don't they have pudding? Isn't there a pudding bar too?
Yeah, but it's like that. That's you don't want to go near that. Then they have fried
pudding
chicken,
skin, got
but
the
it's
pudding
just
skin.
like not real fried chicken. Then there's a taco bar, but it's like there's a lot of needing to be had here.
So there's a lot of bars at this place.
Yeah, there's a lot of disappointment too. And then the meals aren't good either. And then there's the question of where do you tip? Do you tip before? Do you tip after? Do you tip at all? I don't know.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's one way to put your hands up and do that. If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, each every week, the GameOverGreggy show comes to your ears or eyes. 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather around this table, each bring a random topic of conversation for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny where you can toss us a few bucks and get every episode early. If you don't want to get it early, you don't have the bucks. No big deal. Head over to youtube.com/GameOverGreggy where we break the show up topic by topic, day by day, before posting the entire thing for your amusement. Nick.
You had me scared there for a second, Greg,
Why?
because you went off the beaten path.
You like that?
a little bit. Yeah.
We've done 100 episodes on the beaten path.
Yeah.
I figured now's my time to experiment, scat and bebop around the house.
I'm with you, man. Whenever you want to. You want to wear cool clothes?
Turn into a tarantula.
You mean,
for
cool
some
clothes
reason.
like these cranberry pants and Ryan Gosling socks?
Stand up and show everyone your pants.
They've already seen them.
Go right in front and show
Go
them.
out,
Show
shake,
'em.
shake your ass for the camera a little bit. We got to
There you
make
go.
some money.
There you
Come
go.
on.
There you go.
This is
There it
worth
is.
$1
There it
right
is.
here. Twerk
There
it.
it is.
Twerk it harder.
There it is.
You could twerk it a little harder than that.
I'm a big fan of these. Make the bulge look.
Wow. Okay. Well, I don't know if we needed to go that
This
far.
is pornographic now. No, well, you know what? Don't point to it because now. Oh, okay. We're gonna get kicked off of YouTube.
That's like the Chris Hemsworth
What's happening, Colin? What is going on?
I don't know.
You're talking about your Mjolnir? Your penis's name is Mjolnir now?
Mine's a medium.
You're his name Medium?
Uh-huh.
That's
Because
amazing.
it's almost spicy.
I'm gonna call it Chris Hemsworth from now on.
Oh, Chris Hemsworth.
When you walk in the morning and say, "Hey, how's
What's
Chris
up,
Hemsworth doing?"
Yeah.
Nick, what's your topic?
This topic is long in the making, Greg.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we don't get this topic but once every 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
I can't remember if it's 2 years or 3 years. So I said 2 to 3 years. Yes, to be safe. My topic.
What the fuck is wrong with you, Nick?
My topic.
You forgot the topic. That's what it is.
No, I didn't forget the
It's
topic.
just the wheels are spinning, trying to catch up. They're just kicking up mud.
No, I've been working on my segues a little bit here, guys, and they
need
still
more
need
work.
they still need a little bit more
And you
work.
came up with Yost.
I don't know, for some reason I channeled one of the main characters from The Golden Child starring Eddie Murphy. I don't know why the hell my brain went there. Anyway,
See, I thought it was going to be a reference to your topic.
just like that. No, not at all. Although I guess now, segue. Speaking of people with weird accents who are villains, I want to talk about James Bond.
Oh,
That's what I want to talk about.
You do talk about Bond a lot, but we've never had his topic, have we?
I do. I don't know that we have necessarily. I mean, I've brought him up multiple times. Tim, you saw the new James Bond film.
I did. Spectre.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I want to gauge how you guys feel about this because sadly, I am becoming less and less of a Bond fan.
But you were the
as
only
these
Bond
films-
fan I knew.
That's it.
Wow.
I actually might be the last one. left.
You're in a theater all by
You're
yourself.
not the
with
last.
popcorn.
There's others.
No, there are quite a few, but this is something that's been. I think this is the 24th film. Is that
24th.
fourth? Yeah.
Yes.
And we're talking about 50 some odd years of a franchise. And so what I kind of had the realization on this one was, although it's not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination, it's well made, the action's cool.
Very okay.
It's just that every single thing in it feels oddly reminiscent of every movie that came before it. And that's starting to wear on me a little bit. Again, I have a love for this franchise that borderlines on blind faith, and so I'm not gonna leave it just yet.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like the car outside's not on. Someone's not waiting for me to run out the door. I'm still here with it. You know,
Well, you're
James
having
and I
a
are
rough
still
time.
here.
You're having a rough
Yeah.
time.
we're having a
right
rough
now.
patch today, so I don't know. I wanted to hear you guys' thoughts on that. I mean, you guys, do you care? Do
No,
you give a
never,
shit?
never have
No,
ever
least.
given a shit about James Bond.
No.
Never been able to feign interest in it. I've only watched one movie. It was the one, and I this all I remember from it is where at the end he rolls over and he thought, I thought Christmas only came once a year. And I was like, all right,
I love that you've
That
seen
was an
literally
experience.
the worst James Bond movie. Which is The World
that
Is
was
Not
it.
Enough.
That's all I've seen. I've never thought he seems that interesting, or his adventures seem that interesting. And I also don't like British people.
So it's
Why?
not
Because
the
they
movie
talk
for
so
you.
funny.
Yeah. Oi, governor! I'm like, well, right there, we would know you're James Bond because you talk like that.
Because you're the only person on the
But
planet.
he's not. It's not like a secret identity.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, that's actually that's one of the tropes that people make fun of a lot in the series. That everyone knows who he is most of the time. Like he just goes around telling people his name's Bond, James Bond. And it's
Yeah,
like, oh, I guess I'll just do a quick Google search for you.
Yeah,
and figure
right,
out that
now
you're
it's a different world for him,
secret
right?
Agent. Yeah,
Moneypenny's in there taking it all out.
she did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of those franchises that obviously has been around for so long and seen so many different decades of filmmaking and different decades of just decades.
It's seen decades of decades.
Decades. But
It's interesting to me that the franchise has seen a lot of restarts and a lot of different styles in it.
Yeah.
Where, depending on the Bond, like the Brosnan Bond was way more 90s,
yeah,
and it just was very goofy and kind of stupid and like just look at my gadgets. We got so much gadgets.
We had an invisible
And then
car.
Daniel Craig was like the four so far. That it's kind of like the Dark Knight trilogy of the
Grounded.
yeah, it's more grounded, and I think it's a little bit more like grittier, and all the words that people throw out when they talk about Dark Knight.
Visceral.
Yeah, shit like that. And I liked it. I enjoy it. I enjoy the now quadrilogy, and I'm sure it's not fucking over. there needs to
No,
be
I
more.
doubt it's over. He's
Yeah, they're gonna
contracted
keep
for
going.
one more.
But
I don't think he's
there's a
gonna
lot
do
of
it.
issues with it.
No,
I
wait,
think.
no, whoa. Is he really contracted? Because he's been saying he'd only come back for money and da 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 da.
He
That is not how contracts work.
has a 5-picture contract from what I understand with Sony, but I think there's some interesting rights issues happening. I guess Sony's like losing the rights to distribute it this year, and so that may cause some more contract negotiations. I don't know if they've cleared that up or not. But yeah, he's supposed to do 5. This is number 4, and it's interesting because it's gone full circle with me. He did Casino Royale, which was a really cool
Amazing.
reboot, right? It's very much what Tim's talking about, which is like a Nolan-esque reboot of like let's ground this a little bit more in reality. Let's bring a character that's got a lot more dimensions than just the sort of misogynistic, good-looking, superhero that Bond kind of turned into in the Brosnan era. And then in the span of 3 movies, they went right back to the kind of hokey craziness with Skyfall, and now we're sort of at that place where nothing really
matters
because nothing's grounded in reality. You don't have that much of an emotional connection to the character anymore. And I'm sure I don't know if you felt that or not in this, but you're just kind of like, I don't really care what happens.
No, I mean, well, that sums up this movie. And I think the problem with that is the way that these movies function. Like they're sequels to each other, but it almost as if they don't expect you to have watched the other ones.
Right.
And because I think it is a 3-year cycle for these movies.
Yeah.
Which is crazy for
Yeah.
sequels. Like 2 years is a little bit more standard. 1 year is when you really want people to know that they need to watch the other ones for the story to make sense.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that like what I liked about these 4 is that it was a fresh start. You didn't really need to know any of the history. You can just jump into here and kind of get it. But they kind of lost sight of it over the last 12 years making these movies. That doesn't sound right, but
That's how 3 times 4 works.
yeah. But
Probably.
I don't know. Casino Royale, yeah, it came out a long ass time ago.
Yeah.
I think Quantum was 08. So
Yeah.
Somewhere in
Casino
there.
may have been 06.
but it's like it seems like
Or
they
2005
didn't really
maybe.
have a through line that they were going with at all with these movies, and they kind of like worked backwards. Specifically watching this one, where the entire plot of it is, oh hey, you know all those other things that happened?
Those things that were seemingly random were actually tied to this one big thing.
Exactly that, and also those bad guys. There was something above them. They were all together.
That was where
It's
it started
like, no.
to lose because they tried to with Skyfall. They tried to sort of have a lot of homages to the original series, right? And they had like very, very straightforward. They weren't even subtle. It was like the original car comes back and with the ejector seat and all that stuff. And you see sort of updated versions of that here. But one of the things they wanted to do is they wanted to tie in the original evil organization Spectre, which prior to this had been Quantum. And you're not really quite sure how those two are together or not together, or some people from Quantum are in Spectre. We're not sure if it was just a different name they went by. I mean, we think it's a whole different organization that was way more hardcore, similar to like, ISIS to Al Qaeda, I guess would be a good parallel to draw. Like where like they're super fucking hardcore and like, which makes Quantum look like, the bad guys from before look like they fucking work at Disneyland, but you don't really get it. And it's just interesting. I don't know. It's one of those franchises that I look forward to every year, and every year I've been more and more disappointed with what's happening coming from Casino Royale, which is unfortunate. And I think
you love him. You love James Bond, the character.
Yeah, of course.
Where's your
I'm
barometer?
interested. I like it a lot.
Okay.
This Daniel Craig vision of it, I wish was better than it is.
Okay.
Because the thing that I want to say about it is they're beautiful movies.
Oh, no,
like
it's
the
definitely
level
worth seeing.
of production and camera work and just beauty and like fucking vision that they have for these is on another level. Like movies don't compare like this, right?
No, this was beautifully done.
Like for a big
two,
blockbuster movie, I think this is on another level.
Yeah, I mean, just even the people they choose to come and shoot these things, like Skyfall was Roger Deakins, who's like probably the best working cinematographer in the industry right now. And this last one was Hoyt van Hoytema, who is the guy that shot Interstellar. So, I mean, you're talking about top of their craft people. So, yes, visually and just as far as just the mechanics of filmmaking, these are fucking top notch. They're worth seeing just because they're cool.
So loves him, interested, doesn't care. Do you care about Bond? Do you connect with
I think
Bond?
he's an interesting character. I don't really know anything about him, but I've seen, I don't know how many of the movies.
Sure.
Many of them. Pierce Brosnan was really my introduction to it.
Christmas
when I was
always comes
younger.
here. Means like an orgasm, but she was named Christmas.
But I don't know anything about the character. I like the idea of the character and like a suave, sophisticated British
Sure.
secret agent or whatever. I think it's
So then
cool, but it's not for me really.
Nick, why? I want to know why and when you fell in love with him.
Interesting. I think he's just always been a character, right? I think I saw the movies. I saw the original Connery movies on TV during the Christmas time. They always play like a marathon, right?
Mhm.
And I think I sat down and watched one. I was like, this is fairly interesting. And then I think it was really probably GoldenEye that did it for me.
Gotcha.
The game, sinking countless hours into that game and really sort of starting to appreciate just Bond as a franchise for what, just from the enjoyment level I got from the N64 game, to then going through and I think a lot of people you have your different touchstones of like who's your Bond if you're into Bond, depending on when you were born. And a lot of people now it's Daniel Craig, but for you it was probably Pierce Brosnan back in the day because that was probably the first time you saw a Bond film or actually were aware of it. You'd probably seen him on TV, but it's that first time you were aware of it. For me, it was probably GoldenEye.
Yeah.
And then I started working my way backward because I remember seeing Living Daylights. I remember seeing Timothy Dalton and just not liking it because I was like, this doesn't really do it for me. But then that tie-in with the game, because the game was so good, I'm like, damn it, the marketing worked. They got me. Watched
The marketing that was like 2 years after the release of the movie.
I can't. No, actually, I think I remember. I think I remember really liking the movie, and I think I remember liking it because it was so different than the Timothy Dalton movies. And I had seen the Roger Moore movies, of course. I mean, I guess I always just kind of saw them when I was a kid and didn't really. I just kind of liked them, and then once I
So
played,
it wasn't until you got older that you actually.
Yeah, it wasn't
I didn't know
until
if
I
it was something you watched as a kid and you're like, this secret agent's awesome and he's got.
I
cool
mean, I
cars
liked
and
it. I
gadgets.
liked the gadgets. I liked all the zaniness of it. And then I started sort of, in recent years, in the last 10 years, I read the books and I started reading a little bit more about Ian Fleming and sort of how he took some of his real world experience from being not an OSS officer. Whatever the
Secret Service.
It wasn't Secret Service. Whatever the Secret Service was during World War II for the Brits. I forget what it was. It might have been OSS. Anyway, he worked for them. And he knew people that were sort of quote unquote secret agents. And so he, I just think it's cool how he took sort of some of the reality of the world and sort of inflated it into this character, this Bond character. And what's fascinating for me is what it's meant to sort of as a symbol throughout the decades, right? And you see it sort of as Sean Connery as that sort of like that brooding, good looking, dashing, but flawed guy. And then you go into the sort of, the Roger Moore era, which is throw it all out of the fucking window. It's completely zany. We got cars that can fucking turn into boats, that can turn into helicopters, lasers coming out of every aspect of his wardrobe
At all points.
just everywhere. It's just like, don't touch my lapel. There's a laser coming out of it. Then you got Dalton, who was an interesting choice. You've got George Lazenby in there, who's another fascinating story of a guy that like should have been a huge star, but did one movie, decided to quit the franchise, and that was it. That was it for him. Never actually worked again. After that, he should have done 2 or 3 more Bond movies.
Why didn't he ever work? Because
his agent, apparently, the way the story goes is his agent gave him really bad advice and said, "Hey, you should only do one of these because you're going to get typecast," which does happen. It happened to Roger Moore. Didn't happen to Sean Connery, but it did happen to Timothy Dalton and Pierce Brosnan, I think, to some degree. But he was
Brosnan had,
he had a lot. He did Remington Steele. He did Mrs. Doubtfire. He did a lot of good work, but
like Thomas Crown Affair and all that kind of shit was like very
still the same stuff.
Still Bondian, right? And so you come through that. I don't know if Bondian is a word, but we're going to make it into a word. Yeah,
you just made a word.
You come through that, and so he apparently only did one, and his agent said, "Get out of it now." And
Gotcha.
he was basically a male model at the time. I don't think he'd been well known at all. I don't think he'd done anything before that, and I don't think he did anything since,
Gotcha.
which is unfortunate because that movie actually wasn't as bad as people make it out to be. But I think that's Daniel Craig's fear now, is that he wants out of the series because he's been typecast. But I don't know if that's true. I don't think I buy that.
Does that even exist anymore? Does typecasting exist?
It does to a degree. Like I was thinking about it the other day with Arrow, where I was like, could Stephen Amell? It would be hard for him to do anything but Arrow right now, right?
He's Casey Jones in Ninja Turtles.
Is he?
Yep.
We'll see how that works. That should work. That'll be good. That's great for him. But like, it's hard for me to envision him as anything but Arrow. And I think to me, because I come from that old school, like once you're a TV actor, you're a TV actor, which doesn't really exist anymore because people are going back and forth. But like, he's so Arrow to me that it's hard for me to move away from that. And Daniel Craig will always be Bond. Like he hasn't done anything more. He did The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, he did Layer Cake, he did a bunch of other movies. He did Munich, which he was fucking phenomenal in.
Yeah.
But his breakout role, the thing that made him was Bond, and so he'll always be Bond.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I was thinking about it the other day. I was for some reason started thinking about Katie Holmes. I don't know why I'm thinking about Katie Holmes.
Dawson's Creek, man.
Yeah, well, that was the thing was. I'm like, I was thinking, and it must have been something related to Tom Cruise because like, oh yeah, and they broke up and done. I'm like, but what was Katie Holmes famous for? And like, I know actress, don't get me wrong, but I was thinking of not Dangerous Minds. What was the one where they were like the kids took The Faculty?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There was that, and that I was trying to work my way back, and it took me not hours, but at least a minute of thinking to be like, oh right, she's on Dawson's Creek. That was a thing. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you see people get chances again all the time. Like I remember when Party of Five ended, you're like, well, that's that for them people. And then like Matthew Fox is on Lost. You're like, oh. And then the other brother from that had a show. I remember that was running at the same time.
Heroes, wasn't he?
Was he? Scott Wolf? Is that right? Is that his name?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking. my so-called
And then
life.
I mean, even like back to your point of like, we've talked about him on this show and he's been on our stuff at E3, like Brandon Routh, right? When Superman Returns blew up and didn't go anywhere, I was like, well, what's gonna happen to him? Is he ever gonna work in? He's worked a bunch of times, and now he is on air or was on air or whatever, and he's got Legends of the Tomorrow. And
I think you may have. I've read a story about Katie Holmes. She was in my brain recently because apparently the actress from King of Queens,
yeah,
Leanne Rimini or whatever.
we
her
know
name
her
is,
of course as Stacey Carosi.
Mm-hmm.
apparently wrote a book, an autobiography that has a lot to do with like being around Scientologists and going to that Tom Cruise and Suri's wedding and like all the weird shit that which is fascinating to me. I'm so fascinated by that. I will probably not read it, but I am fascinated enough to have read that Yahoo article that I came across.
You've read
which
the
is interesting.
excerpts on Yahoo.com.
But yeah, she's another interesting one too, where it's like, she's on Ray Donovan. It's a great show. She's on
I don't know. What's Ray
she's been on-
Donovan?
It's a Showtime show starring Leah
Okay,
Shriver.
Gotcha.
It's fucking really good, and she's on it. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you're always sort of known for that, and I think that is a concern. But if the best you're ever gonna do in life is being fucking James Bond, I think you did okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did okay.
And that's I think that might be the bigger thing nowadays, right? It's like it's not that you never work again, but are you ever something that's on that level again? You know what I mean?
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, for Daniel Craig will. He'll endure and he'll find a couple breakout roles.
Are they making more of the Girl with Dragon Tattoo movies? I like that first one a
I
lot.
don't think so. I don't think he wanted to. Well, I don't think his character. I don't think is in them predominantly.
Gotcha.
For the next two, I think it's more about her. I think he's just a side character in it. But I don't know what the holdup is. That I love that first movie.
Yeah, it was great.
I thought it was great. It was better than reading the book because all the fucking names are too incredibly hard to pronounce in your brain.
Sure.
Stieg Larsson. That was easier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that seems like you nailed it. I don't know.
I don't know. I want to see him do more. I want him to. Obviously, you want people that are in franchises that you love to actually be happy when they're making them.
Yeah,
so
what's
there
your
is
take
that.
on all that though? Because this was this huge thing, right? That Daniel Craig did all this press and then was like,
Yeah, if you read the quote, it was a lot more joking than people made it out to be. They just they took it out of context. In context, he was saying more along the lines of like he's really tired because they're in the middle of. And you've been to those junkets multiple times. You've had people on the shows that you've hosted where they do the rounds, right? At Comic-Con, they're like, "Cool, we just got off of 15 other interviews, and you're going to ask me probably, let's be honest, the exact same questions that all those other people asked us."
Yeah.
And so, yes, right now there is a component of wanting to not be in that situation that I think that he was feeling, but it's also obviously heightened by the fact that he doesn't want to do the movies anymore. But yeah, he was basically alluding to the fact that he was just really tired, and right now, given the thought of going back on set and doing another movie, he would rather slit his wrists. What he said.
Sure.
Which was a poor use of words. He should have said, I'm good. I need a break. That's all I needed to say.
That's a better way to say it.
But I think he needs to go, and I think they need to redo. I think they need to reboot the franchise.
They do. I mean,
They have to.
it's too convoluted at this point. Like Skyfall, I think it wasn't a perfect movie, but I think it was a good direction of at least trying to like, all right, Casino Royale rebooted things, Quantum fucked things up. Skyfall was like, let's kind of get it back on track, and then this one just kind of put things together but didn't go anywhere with it.
Yeah.
And now it's convoluted, and it's like a Metal Gear Solid storyline without any of the good parts about it.
Well, see,
it's
what
just convoluted.
what I liked about Casino Royale that unfortunately I think Quantum kind of jostled a little bit was that Casino Royale was a little bit more like a Bourne movie. It was taken it was taking a lot of cues from the Bourne identity and the Bourne series, where it was super violent, the action was super fucking visceral, and like it wasn't tongue in cheek. Like I'm gonna say a tagline afterward. Like there's at no point does he ever say, with the exception of like one or two choice lines, like "Don't lose your head."
He doesn't have
those fucking
one-liners.
dumb one-liners, right? It's very, very much about him being a covert operative in this world and like having to take down someone, and there is a grandeur to it, but ultimately it was a lot more rooted in reality than even Quantum was, where you have him suddenly like doing these crazy things in this plane, and then by the time Skyfall comes around, I think Skyfall was a reaction to Quantum, where Quantum was, because of the writer's strike and because of some of the circumstances of when it was being produced, it wasn't as good as it could have been. Namely, I think Daniel Craig actually wrote some of it, if I'm not mistaken, because they didn't have the writers. Like the writers were striking at the time.
Why don't you take a shot at this, Daniel?
Well, he's a co-producer on
James
it now too, as
Bond.
well.
Great line.
Awesome. Thought of that myself. So, the problem is the series, I think, just kind of, it found itself with Casino Royale, and I think it lost itself with Skyfall. I think by the time it got to Skyfall, they were like, ooh, here's how we fix this. Let's do a bunch of ridiculous homages to the Roger Moore era and the Sean Connery era, and let's try to tie that in with the villain that's really like really crazy, but at the same time, let's have absolutely nothing happen.
Yeah,
and that
I
was
mean
Skyfall.
that was the problem. Is it was so close, but they didn't really do
They
it.
didn't-
The best compliment I can give this one is the opening 15 minutes are amazing.
They're beautiful,
So cool. I loved it.
beautiful. It's all done in like a one take shot. I think they shot on film too, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't read that article.
I mean,
about
it looked.
the
The,
production
the,
yet,
the
but-
only problem with the CG when the building crumbles is like it was like, oh man, you took me out of this. But before that, man, the fucking. When it starts up and just that one shot following him, there's no dialogue. You just hear all the sounds of the people and shit. And then he just goes in the room with that girl, and you're just like, "This is fucking great."
Yeah, it's a great first scene. It's very reminiscent of like Touch of Evil, but like when we're basically following him through this crowd of people in Mexico City during
Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead celebrations. And he goes up to the hotel room and he's in like the costume and he throws the girl in the bed and we're with her for a second. It's all one shot. We're with her for a second and it turns back to him and he's in his suit, like just putting on his tie. She's like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "I'll be
And he
right
just
back."
steps out the
and he
window.
steps out the window and then
It's
has to
so
go kill
fucking
someone.
cool.
It's really cool. And that was great.
And then there's a great action scene, like with the helicopter and stuff.
Yeah, again, it was one of those things where it was like, that was awesome. But I didn't really need that. Like, we don't need, I guess this is at the heart of what I'm struggling with is, do we need this character anymore? You know, like a perfect example is, and I don't want to get too down this rabbit hole, but his the sex scene with Monica Bellucci, right, where it just kind of totally comes out of nowhere, and he sort of quote unquote seduces her, but it seems a lot more creepy than it should have. I don't
Yeah.
know how you felt about
No,
that,
I mean,
but
it
I
was-
was like,
it was
this is
weird.
really not like in olden days. I think it was sort of like the idea of what the masculine man was supposed to be Sean Connery, right? A guy that could walk into a room and the woman was so attracted to him that he could take her clothes off without even thinking about it, right? Of course, if any of us did that right now, we'd probably be thrown in jail, and rightfully so, because it comes off a lot more like assault in this movie than it does.
Is she like the main girl?
No, Monica Bellucci is the wife in the very beginning, where she's like, "They're gonna kill me now because you killed my husband."
Got it. Yeah.
Just stunning.
Yeah,
So
no,
what
that
does
was
that mean? I
creepy.
don't. So what does creepy mean?
So
So
it's
she
kinda
doesn't
stalker.
want
when you look at, no, it's not that she doesn't want it. It's just that the character of Bond is supposed to mean something that I don't know that it necessarily needs to mean anymore. In that I don't think it needs to be the sort of symbol of sex appeal for a man, right? Because I think that criteria in my brain at least has changed a little bit, right? Like, he's dashing, yes. He's good looking, yes. He's charming, yes. But I don't feel a connection to anyone anymore that based on a need or a desire of mine to be able to sweep a woman off her feet in 5 seconds, right? That's not interesting to me anymore. And I think that's sort of indicative of what the franchise is in general. It's that it's very, 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 very superficial now. It's come back to that superficial level where the action's superficial, the sex is superficial, the wardrobes, while amazing, are still kind of just there as sort of, they kind of just pop out as like, this is just going to kind of, season the whole whatever we're looking at on screen. There's no real heart to it. And that, I think that's what I take sort of offense to. Not offense, but I think that's what I have that makes me a little sad, is that I don't feel a connection to him anymore personally, and I don't feel a connection because I don't think that they're taking the time to really think about how he should be utilized or how they should develop these connections within the characters, within the structure of the movies, right? So, like, for instance, I don't need to see him walk into a room and instantly have sex with a girl. Does anyone need to see that? Does anyone get off on that? Does anyone look at that and go, "That's a fucking serious, a symbol of masculinity that I should adhere to, or I should strive to be like"? I don't think that.
I love the second sex scene in that movie.
The second sex scene was hot, though.
It was amazing.
That was good because they actually
There was
took time to
build up
develop those
and
She
characters,
creeped
right?
him out.
I mean, it's good. It's real good.
Right. And
I
there's-
want to give a shout out to the song, because when I first heard the song, I was like, this sucks. This isn't Bond. I don't like this, especially after the amazing Skyfall by Adele.
Yeah, it was. I liked it. I thought it.
But
it
in the
did well.
movie,
Yeah,
I thought
it worked well.
with the thing, man.
That
And
was
that's the
an
other thing,
awesome
is
opening
Bond
sequence.
movies always have the best opening sequences.
Oh, yeah.
And this one,
Well, they
right
have
up there.
They literally have producers that just do those.
I know.
sequences.
I love seeing the credits. Then you see the credit for the guy
Yeah, the
that
guy's
just
name.
made that music video.
Yeah,
Fucking cool.
freaking awesome, man. So I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm sure given some time, I'll go back. I mean, I've rewatched probably Casino Royale.
In a
at least
perfect
5,
world,
6
what do
times.
you want to see then? Do you want to see Bond take a decade off? Do you want to see?
No, I want to see him. I would love to see them go back to the storytelling that we saw in Casino Royale, which I know is hard, right? That's like saying I'd love to see Nolan keep remaking The Dark Knight every time, right? It's just it's not going to fucking happen, right? And again, it's not to say to Tim's earlier point, this is a good movie. I'm not going to score it. I'm not going to review it. But if I had to, I would score it well. I would say go see it. It's awesome to watch in theaters. The cinematography, the acting, everything's beautiful. It's just, it's everything's compared to The Dark Knight. That is the benchmark. And so when you have rises, depending on who's sitting at the table, it's just not as good. And to me, I think that every subsequent one that followed Casino Royale has been just not as good.
Step
It's just
down,
not as
step
good. A
down.
step down.
I did the same problem that whenever we have been talking about Uncharted recently, where I was saying my issues with Uncharted is that a lot of the plot in all three of the games is, all right, you need to go find this thing in this place. You go there, you get it, and you're like, oh, wait,
This is
we
the thing
actually
for
need
the
to go
other
to that
thing.
place. And then you go there, and it's like, oh, but there's this person over here. Oh, they're not the bad guy. You need to go to Mexico. Now you need to go to
Right.
Antarctica. Now you need to go to whatever. And it's like, why? You know? And what this movie doesn't have that Uncharted does have is the writing and the characters that you really fucking care about. So the movie was just kind of like, you're just going places for no fucking reason.
And I think that's the point. That's what I'd love to see more. I'd like to see way more character development. I know that sounds silly for a Bond film because it is a Bond film and we're getting into the minutia of it. But I'd like to see way more character development. I'd like to see more development. I think Daniel Craig would probably like to see a lot more development of the actual character itself. Just in general,
There should be development that matches the look of it.
How
you
so?
know?
How do you mean?
Like it looks
looks
beautiful.
amazing.
It looks
Why
like
isn't
a
the story
great movie.
Oh
Amazing.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. I mean that's yeah. I mean that's what I'd love to see. And I know that's rendering a complaint where I think a lot of people would disagree with me and say, dude, it's a fucking Bond film. Like it's similar to a Call of Duty movie,
Here's
right?
my
Or a Call
question.
of Duty game. Like where you're gonna play Call of Duty, you know what you're gonna fucking get. People mostly just want more Call of Duty.
How do these movies perform nowadays? I don't even pay attention.
Skyfall did really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one I think is doing fairly well. The budget was huge on it though. It was closely creeping up to
It's the third
being
highest budget
one of the
movie
highest-
of all time.
Yeah, highest movies of all time. So, and you can see it. It definitely is there.
It's
Like
fucking
the visuals
beautiful.
are gorgeous, but it always makes me wonder. And I think at this one, I can't remember if this. I haven't read up on it, but I don't know if this is true or not. Someone told me that they kind of went into shooting with the script still in flux, very much in flux, and so that could contribute to a little bit of that. But it always amazes me that like, especially with the producers of these films, where you're like, why wouldn't you just, you're gonna make another one? Why don't you take some of that $200 million budget and just throw a really good screenwriter a bone?
Yeah.
Let him just do a throw Gary Whitta a bone. Let him write a James Bond film. I'm sure he's British, isn't he? Still?
Yeah.
Does he still count as
Is he
British?
still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He still eats all that gross ass food and just wants it all the time. All that
God, man,
gross
that
food.
last
He
shit he
sounds
brought
really
in, I
British.
crave sometimes.
Oi,
A weird
Governor, me
spread.
Gary Whitta here.
Yeah,
Abomination in bookstores now, eh?
it is in bookstores now.
It is.
online.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, that's where I'm at. I mean, again, I still love it.
So
I think
you
I'll still
want
love the
James
franchise.
Bond dead. You say end the
No.
franchise, bury it, never do it again, and also collect all the copies of the movies that are out there now and burn those.
Wow. No.
That's what I
No,
took away
that's
from your
not.
topic.
That's
Take
not
the golden
what's
gun out
going
back. One bullet to the head.
Shoot it in the back of the head. Now, I mean, I think that I always want Bond to be a thing. Similar to how I always want Harry Potter to be a thing. I always want the Muppets to be a thing. There are certain cherished franchises that I need to still be around, and Bond is definitely one of
But
them.
Harry Potter is a thing and it's done now.
No, it's coming back, baby.
Is it?
Coming back.
What's
Yeah,
going
they're
on?
making another one. It's an offshoot. It's a
What
do they
about
call it?
Harry and his kids or that
No,
monsters?
it's about, what is it called? Magical.
Fantastic
yeah,
Beasts.
okay, yeah, Fantastic
Where to
Beasts. That
find 'em,
doesn't
yeah.
count. That's not back.
It does
That's
count.
grasping at straws. That's not
No, that's them building out the expanded universe of Harry
the
Potter.
expanded universe, the cinematic bookie universe.
No.
What's that?
Oh yeah, I did hear about
They're
this.
making a
Where it's
play.
like Potter's 35, right, and his kid's doing something.
They're
It's
making
a play. Is it a musical?
It's a two-part play.
Going back to Hogwarts. Everyone we knew is dead.
Oh my God.
We need to see this musical.
I'm down.
Immediately.
Well, we need to write it, I think, first. That might be the next step.